Hello viewers, Super GT here. I've recently had a couple of very incident-packed races around Suzuka. This one starting from dead last in the pack. And I thought I'd upload it and see what your opinions are on how a couple of these incidents went down. Now for this one, as we say, starting dead last, although immediately gaining a position from the Danish driver there who was slowing down at the start. And it's a very busy incident-packed race, this one. 16 cars, 10 laps around Suzuka in Group 3 cars, pretty much everyone using the Nissan GTR. Although we do have a Porsche here who is going sideways quite quickly, wind getting caught up with that, and as a result I'm going to gain 2 positions, 3 positions gained already. Let's turn our attention to the Degner corners, and the Italian going slightly wide here is going to compromise their line through Degner 2. And we're going to get a much better exit to gain 4 positions already. In towards the hairpin, first lap then. Looking towards the inside, it kind of bunches up and slows down. I just pinch a nice little overtake on the inside there, as I think someone in the background got punted into oblivion. Now, 5 positions gained already. This has gone quite well so far. Can we gain, let's say, another one on this lap? Would be ideal if we can. Through Spoon. Not really a long way round there. Gonna have to try to wait for the back straights here. Up towards 130R, always a possible overtaking opportunity, but often it's better to wait until the corner after into the chicane. As we're just coming up to 130R here, very fast and fearsome corner, and you see they're turning a little bit early. The Brit just ahead, going a little bit wide, and we're going to go around the outside in towards the braking zone and claim P10. So that was a really successful, good opening lap there on the medium tyre. You have to use the medium and the soft. We'll go on to the soft tyre later. Now we're trying to pick our way through past these 2 guys here. Now let's see what we can do about getting P9 in this race. Up through Dunlop Curve. Not an easy corner by any means. It's probably one of my weaker corners, I would say, around the Suzuka circuit. Coming up towards the Degner corners, not really overtaking opportunities, I would say. So we're going to try and keep it single file, bit of a push from behind, but thankfully, I mean, to be fair to this guy, just tucks back in, doesn't really take advantage of that situation, and moves back into P11 just behind. That's easily what happens, you know, a lot of the time in online races, especially in a bunch pack. You often get, you know, I sometimes do it by accident. You kind of just accidentally push the guy in front. Don't really mean to do it, you just do because it's so close. It's quite hard to judge sometimes. But into the chicane. Tried it around the outside, didn't quite work, and thankfully Ollie there did give the space for the second apex, but I did back out before it even became a necessity. But as we cross the line to begin lap 3, we're firmly in the slipstream here, and this is always a potential move in towards turn 1. Never the easiest move. We are in the slipstream. We're going to pull out to the right hand side. Not quite going to go for the move, but you see there that as he disappears off to the left of the screen, he was definitely aware of my presence, and that's sometimes you can force an error by sticking your nose up the inside and kind of hoping that they don't really take the corner properly, and that's exactly what happened there. So, a couple of people sent to the Shadow Realm quite early in this race. But are we going to be able to get past the Belgian driver here into towards 130R, lap number 3, hitting the apex as best we can, losing a bit of ground actually, but this is where a big dive bomb is going to come in from behind, and this is going to kind of scupper our momentum in this race somewhat as we exit the chicane onto the main straight, and I've gone into the back of the Brit there, and here is where Wind is going to come through and gain 3 positions. He's on the right hand side of me at this moment. He's going to go to the right hand side of this trio. I'm going to try and follow him through, and it just shows you sometimes you can't gain positions, and then Wind is going to come along and gain 3 in about 10 seconds. So very good progress. Now I'm stuck once again behind the Belgian driver. So let's see if we can try and get past here and get up into P9. Now this is where one of the first incidents is going to occur. It was quite a late move, and I went for it there. There was contact, and he ended up going off the track, and I wanted to pause it and bring attention to this move, because when I did it at the time, I felt like, actually, you know what, I felt like it was a good-ish move, quite late. And then you watch it from his point of view, and it looks like a late dive. I was 3/4 alongside at the apex, and it's one of those that I think the more you watch it back, the worse it looks on my part. It's definitely an overtaking opportunity. You do often catch people by surprise there, and that's exactly what happened there. I think he didn't expect it, so he turned in, and there was contact. But I would like to know your thoughts on how clean or not clean at all that move was. And I think, you know what, at the time of doing it, it felt okay. It felt like, you know what, I've sprung a surprise, I've got to the apex, and he's turned in. But then when you watch it on a replay, it always looks different, and I think sometimes it's nice to actually reflect and look back and go, actually, from their point of view, it wasn't so good. But here we get a penalty a couple of laps later. This is lap 5 now. We serve the penalty, lose a bit of ground to the guy in front, and by lap 6 we're looking to come into the pit lane at the end of this lap, currently now in P5, really courtesy of a couple of people going into the pit lane already. Now the Portuguese driver's going to get a slow exit here, so we're going to go up into P4, and then we've got the Spaniard in front who is recovering from some incident, not sure what happened to them. I'm going to tuck back in just before we get to the corner. And the Spaniard, perhaps with dirty tyres, just carrying a bit too much speed, goes wide on the exit, and that's going to be P3. But we do have to do our pit stop here at the end of lap 6. So we're going to remove the medium tyres, put the soft ones on, and then it will be a dash to the end. So let's get those mediums off. The Nissan boys once again doing a fantastic job, nice and consistent. So P7 as we exit with a 6 second gap to the car in front, although it wasn't 6 seconds for long because they're the Portuguese driver in the gravel realm through Degner's. Then we caught up with another Portuguese driver and Deadeye Delboy in a battle for 4th and 5th. So let's see if we can try to at least get in the top 5, which would be a solid return given we started P16 on the grid. Now here I was going to try the same move where you spring a surprise into the entry of Dunlop, and to be honest this time it was a bit different. I went for it and I hit the grass on the left. It sprung me wide, and that one I felt like, you know what, I've hit him wide definitely there. I'm going to let him go back past and I'm going to try and do this one properly. That one I felt was different because I hit the grass on the inside and it sprung me wide. I understeered wide into him, which was slightly different than the other incident, although not to completely exonerate that first incident. But here we go, we're going to try and do it properly this time, actually go into the back of him there. And I felt like maybe, I think he must have been on a medium tyre, whereas I'm on the soft. And that's the primary reason for this deficit in speed here. So I've got 1 1/4 laps left to try to get past him. But time is running out. Unfortunately, because of that incident, you see Deadeye Delbo in 4th has actually managed to quite easily get away. So really this is only for 5th now. 4th place is long gone. But we're going to try and do our best here. He's going to cover the inside as he's entitled to do. We give him a bit of a bump. Takes the racing line. But are we going to be able to get this move done into the chicane on lap number 9? We're going to go late on the brakes with the superior tyre. We're able to go quite deep on the brake and get the move done. Up into P5, solid return. And 1 lap later, end of P10, end of lap 10, it's going to be a P5. So not a bad race. 5th position in the end, 11 positions gained. But let me know your thoughts on that incident. Now the next race, this was a really good example of sportsmanship, and I really enjoyed this race. And I want to give a shout out to Deadeye Delboy in this one. But firstly, we're going to go past the Austrian driver who went for the defence here, wasn't really fully committed. And I was still going to always go up the inside and try to claim P3, as we do. With Deadeye Delboy being the next person in line. And Deadeye Delboy is someone who actually has a YouTube channel, streams fairly often these days. And I would always encourage everyone to go and have a look at his channel and see what kind of content he's making, because it's always nice to see a lot of... there's quite a lot of people streaming Gran Turismo 7 at the moment, making videos on it. And I've always encouraged people to go and have a look, so I will link his channel in the description. In the meantime, I've caught up. This is the end of lap number 3 now. Now Delboy had a really good qualifying time, but I think his race pace was not quite as good as mine, maybe a tenth or two off. But here, I was going to try and go for this move, and it was kind of similar to moves I did in the previous race, where you just put your nose on the inside and hope that they kind of leave you the space. And on that occasion he did. And this turned out to be a really good battle between the two of us. We were actually fairly equal on pace. Even though I was, I think, a tiny bit quicker, it wasn't as if I could just pull away and just quite easily win. It was, well, I wasn't winning, I was in P2. That's not winning. But winning against Del Boy is my point I'm trying to make. This is the end of lap number 5, and you see there just getting a little bit liberal with those track limits through 130R. For some reason I couldn't judge it on this day. I was always cutting the corner a little bit too much. It is a fast corner, quite hard to judge, but on this occasion for some reason I was just turning in too early pretty much every time. So Del Boy pretty much stuck with me. Even though I caught up with him quite quickly, I wasn't able to pull away, and here almost going wide, getting pulled off onto the extra tarmac on the outside there. But thankfully I just managed to recover, didn't really fight the car too much, just slowed it down and got back on the track, and we give each other space on the exit. So a good battle between the two of us on the exit of the second corner, and I thankfully managed to regain P2. And you see there, for some reason, like I said, I was just turning in way too early for 130R, and I get myself another penalty, which we serve. And I had just enough of a gap that it didn't lose me a position, although Del Boy was pretty much right back on my tail as we come through 130R into the final chicane at the end of lap number 8. So I couldn't really have much of a rest here. The leader was 8 seconds clear by this point, so they were quite easily going to win the race. But the battle for P2, I would say I just about had the measure of Del Boy on this one. He was never quite close enough to go for that move, but it was a really good battle because even though they're, you know, 3/4 of a second behind, it's one of those where you know that if you get a penalty or you make a bit of a mistake, they're going to get through, and therefore you still always have to be completely alert and bring the car home to the end as we do. In P2, really good battle, really enjoyed it, and it was just an enjoyable race, as we say at the end here. Thanks for the race, and, you know, nice to see you again. Thanks for the race. Let's play again sometime. That's what you want in Gran Turismo. That's what you want when you're racing online, to have a respectful race where everyone enjoys it. This was another race, and I just want to show you this one overtake here against Tidgney. I just had to show it, unfortunately for Tidgney. Pinned him to the inside, round the outside, and it's always good when you race against someone you know that you can race against. I could have easily got pushed wide on the AstroTurf there, but I tried to move around the outside and it worked. But how about Scott Speed? How does he figure in all of this? Well, let's take a look, shall we? Because we jumped into a race, starting at the back once again, P15, on the medium tyre to open out this one. Let's see what we can do. Immediately gaining position against the Canadian, goes a little bit wide there, into P14. And for some reason, it was very incident struck here. Cars sliding off to the right, a couple of cars hitting each other up ahead, one to the left, one to the right. And that's going to be P11 quite quickly. So 4 positions gained, we've barely done 4 corners, and I spring a surprise there. And that shows you sometimes those kinds of moves can work. Where you dive up the inside, the space was available, and we make full use of it. Sometimes it can work, sometimes it doesn't always work, and it's always good to look back at these races, look back at the replays, and just actually realise that, you know, sometimes you go for a move as that guy goes into the barrier. Sometimes you make a move and it seems fine in the moment, but then you watch it from their point of view and you realise, actually, you know what, that wasn't the cleanest of moves I've ever done. And it's always good to calibrate your approach by watching yourself back, by watching sometimes the point of view of the other player as well, which I think is really important. And that was something I certainly did with these couple of races, with all the incidents that happened. So this one, pretty good first opening lap into the top half of the order, into P8 of 16. Coming up behind quite a big group here, looking towards the inside. So whenever 2 cars are side by side, you're going to always try to follow the car on the inside. Didn't quite work on this occasion, so we have to tuck back in behind the Porsche as we wind all the way around into Spoon. This was a late move up the inside, hit the apex, and I think there was a tiny bit of contact. I tried to make sure we didn't run him off onto the Astro. I think that was borderline acceptable. It was a fairly strong, aggressive move. Now this one, beginning of lap number 3, you see we're in a very big group, and surely this is about to get very tasty. Brightly coloured BMW here, blocking the inside. Try around the outside, it's not quite going to work. And I was hoping to gain one position there. Normally something's going to happen when you've got a group like this fighting extremely closely. Something probably is going to happen, and I see on my opportunity here. As the BMW gets slowed down, we can go around the outside with this long right hander, and as long as we don't overcook this one, we are all good. And there we go, up into P6. 6th position has been gained. Into Degner 1, over the curb. And then into Degner 2. This guy goes a little bit wide here, and I tried to get the move done on the exit, didn't quite work. I did manage to make that work in an earlier race, it didn't quite happen on this occasion. How about into the hairpin? Looking wide, really to try and get a good exit, and I don't really make the most of that opportunity at all. Through into Spoon, let's see, can we get the job done here? It's not really going to happen here, as I was nowhere near close enough to go for the move on the way in. Nor the way out. Sometimes you can spring a move into the second apex, and on this occasion again not quite close enough to go for it. Now this is where, well, I wasn't too keen on these couple of moments here. Someone serving a penalty. I looked to the inside, didn't quite work out, I got blocked off, but here I felt like I gave this guy space, and then he kind of just turned left a couple of times and tried to force me off the track. But then here, I gave space on the apex, and as he comes back on, boom, I'm off onto the gravel. Could have, I could have dealt with this incident differently, perhaps, by... Well, it's always interesting to look back at these incidents, because obviously I ended up off the track. I felt like I wasn't in the wrong, but there's always something you can do to try to avoid an incident. But it wasn't too long before that same guy ended up in the wall, and I wasn't too sorry about that, to be honest. But it's always interesting. Sometimes in the heat of the moment you never think you're wrong, but then you look back at the replay and you think, well, I perhaps could have done it differently. Even if I wasn't necessarily wrong, I perhaps could have left more space, and then I wouldn't have been involved in an incident. I wouldn't have lost so many positions. So sometimes you do have to self-reflect and understand that, you know what, actually, even if I wasn't wrong, I still could have done it better. And as I say, calibrating your approach like that will always help. Now here, this guy in the BMW just drives a little bit wide, big mistake in the exit of Spoon. Eventually catch up with P3 and P4, who are having a titanic battle in towards turn 1. Guy gets sucked off by the AstroTurf, which is never what you want to see. You just do not want to see that. Although I do go up into P4. Can we get this move done on P3? Well, in a weird way, yes, because he has to take his foot off the throttle for fear of running wide on the exit there of Dunlop. And that's always my fear on the exit of Dunlop, running wide. And in the end, it's going to be a 3rd place, which was quite a successful race, I think. I lost quite a lot of time on that 3rd lap with that incident, and I think I could have maybe got 2nd if not for that. But ultimately, at the end of all of that, let me know your thoughts on a couple of those incidents that happened in the race. But I think this was a bit of a lesson, I think, in the sense that you should always self-reflect and take a look at your incidents and see what happened and why they happened, and could you have done anything differently. Because trust me, in the heat of the moment, it feels fine. Sometimes you feel like you're always going to be right, but then when you look back at it, it's not always going to be the case. But that brings this one to a close. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself an amazing day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.